Welcome to Curious Kids Every Day. I'm Josh. How are you doing today? It's so good to hear from you. Hey, have you ever wondered what life was like before grocery stores? We have just aisles and aisles filled with every single food we could ever possibly imagine. Most people have more than one grocery store within just a few miles of their house. And even if you aren't at a grocery store, most other stores sell food too. We've got food everywhere. But when did grocery stores get started? And what did people do before we had grocery stores? How did they get their food? Well, let's figure it out. If you wanted an apple or a loaf of bread today, you could just ask your parents to drive you to the store, or maybe you could walk down the street to the nearest market. But imagine living a few hundred years ago, before giant supermarkets even existed. Where would you get your food? For most of human history, people grew or gathered their own food. That means they planted gardens, raised animals, hunted wild game, and collected fruits, nuts, and berries. Families depended on the land around them. If you wanted eggs, what would you raise? Yeah, chickens. If you wanted milk, what did you need? Right, a cow or a goat. And if you wanted bread, you had to grow wheat, grind it into flour, and bake it yourself. That was a lot of work. But as towns and villages grew, not everyone had enough land or time to raise everything they needed. That's when trade became important. People would swap the things they had plenty of for the things they needed. A farmer with lots of apples might trade with a neighbor who raised cows for milk. In many places, outdoor markets popped up where families could bring extra food to sell or trade. These looked like big gatherings of tents and stalls with baskets of vegetables, meat, cheese, or bread. Even today, you can still find places like this. We call them farmers markets. My family loves going to farmers markets. And before grocery stores, there were also something called general stores. These weren't filled with hundreds and hundreds of aisles, but they carried important supplies people couldn't make at home. A general store might sell flour, sugar, salt, coffee, and spices. They also carried things like cloth, tools, or lantern oil. People often bought things in bulk, meaning they got a big sack of flour or a giant barrel of sugar instead of small packages like we buy today. Imagine if you could only go to the grocery store once every month or every 2 months or 3 months. You'd have to buy a lot of whatever you were going to buy. Before people had cars, you had to really think about where you wanted to go and how often you wanted to go there. So, when did grocery stores begin? Well, the first modern-style grocery stores started appearing in the early 1900s. But at first, you didn't grab food yourself off the shelf like we do now. Instead, you gave a clerk a list, and they went around the store collecting the items for you. Then, in 1916, a store called Piggly Wiggly in Memphis, Tennessee, introduced something new. Customers could walk around the store, choose their own food, and put it in a basket. And yes, this is that Piggly Wiggly. They still exist today. This was the beginning of the self-service grocery store we know now. The idea spread quickly, and over time, grocery stores became bigger and bigger. Soon, supermarkets were built with entire sections of fruit, vegetables, meat, dairy, canned goods, frozen food, candies, and more. Trucks and trains carried food from farms all over the country, and ships brought items from faraway places. That's why you can eat bananas in the middle of winter, even if you don't live anywhere near where bananas grow. So, before grocery stores, people relied on farming, trading, and general stores. It was a lot harder to get food, and families had to plan carefully to make sure they would have enough. Next time you walk down the aisles of the grocery store, think about how amazing it is to have so much food in one place, something people in the past could only dream about. Okay, let's have a quick quiz. Before grocery stores, where did most families get their food? Yep, they grew it themselves, or they raised it, or they traded for it. What was the name of the first self-service grocery store? They still exist today. It's Piggly Wiggly. What is the modern example of an old-fashioned market where people sell fresh food directly? My family loves going to these places. That's a farmer's market. Let's play true or false. True or false? Families in the past could just buy frozen pizza whenever they wanted. No, that is false. Frozen pizza is a very modern invention. True or false? General stores often sold flour and sugar in big sacks or barrels. That is true. You needed enough so that you wouldn't have to come back to the general store for a long time. True or false? Before grocery stores, people traded with their neighbors. That is true. Would you rather raise chickens for eggs or cows for milk? Both of these sound really fun, but I have always wanted to raise chickens. I really hope that one day I can get some chickens. It would be so fun to have our own eggs. I wouldn't have to get them from the store. Let's play a couple of rounds of What Am I? Are you ready? What am I? I'm an animal. I give you something to drink. And the drink you get from me is white. What am I? Yep, that's a cow. Okay, that one was pretty easy, I will admit. Here's the one that's a little more difficult. What am I? I'm grown in the ground. I can be baked into bread. And people had to grind me into flour. What am I? That would be wheat. So, how did people get food before grocery stores? Well, they grew it, raised it, traded for it, and bought essentials from general stores. Then grocery stores came along and made it way, way easier to get all kinds of food in one place. Now, we can't imagine life without them. What kind of question do you think we'll ask tomorrow on Curious Kids Every Day? I can't wait to find out. So until then, keep asking questions and stay curious, kids. And for all the grown-ups listening, thank you so much for telling other parents about this show. Please visit CuriousKidsEveryday.com to get a free printable with activity ideas that don't involve screens. Those are the best kinds of adventures to have. That's CuriousKidsEveryday.com. See you tomorrow.